You're welcome. Pick the one that is, I have ultra thin flares, I have normal flares, I have Sharpies.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, this meeting of the board is now called to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome everyone tonight who's here or viewing us online. And I want to let everybody know that Trustee Novaria sends her regrets. Our first order of business is to approve our agenda on page 2. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes, and we'll move forward with our agenda as planned. And we'll start with the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Just 2 items on our superintendent's report today. The first is the bond project update, which Johnny Edwards will provide.
Thank you, Superintendent Belang and members of the Board of Education. I want to talk to you about our construction update. First with Central Elementary School. Work continues with the underground utilities as well as backfilling. They are now working on interior and exterior block bearings. And then also on the site, we're working with our water main right now. The school's water main loops around the entire school starting on the south side. So they're working and backfilling that, and now they're moving to the northwest side, kind of working in a clockwise rotation around the site. Over at Haverhill, contractors continue to work on the footings. They're also doing work with backfilling, and now there's masonry work in action. So you can now start to see some of the exterior walls starting to develop. Woodland, our third school, since our last board meeting, we've engaged the Woodland Advisory Team as well as our district's leadership team to review some of the initial concepts for the school and the site. We're still in what's called the conceptual design phase. We plan to move into schematic design next month, and we'll apprise the board of any layouts as we move, get a better handle on how the school may lay out on the site. Also, we've now gotten into the change order scenario. So next month, Dan Rathborn, who's the senior project manager from OAK, he'll come here to present and review the change orders in the project. And then lastly, while this is not necessarily related to our construction or our bond schedule, I just want to inform the board some information about our building site and sinking fund. I've met with the facilities committee earlier in the fall about a BSSF renewal, which is building site and sinking fund. We currently levy a 0.4988 on that particular fund. Our building site and sinking fund was most recently passed by our community in 2019. It was a 5-year millage. It expires in 2024. Next month, Paula Johnson and I would like to do a more in-depth presentation with the entire board, and our goal would be to recommend a resolution for January 2024 board, and then bring it to our community in May of 2024. But next month, Paula and I will go more in depth about building site and sinking fund. So, if there are any questions about anything shared today, I can answer.
Well, thanks for reminding us about the BSSF. It seems like we just passed it.
Yes, not too long ago.
It's a quick 5.
Quick 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
And next is our financial report, and Paula Johnson is here to present that. Paula?
Good evening, Board of Ed and Superintendent Belang. Included in your board packet this month was our financial report for the month of October. This is our first month that we actually receive a state aid payment in the new fiscal year. So I'd like to start off by just highlighting on the revenue side that The state categorical is up compared to last year, and that is because of the same reason in the September financial report that was emailed to you. We had several state categoricals that were deferred at the end of last fiscal year, so that revenue is recognized now in this school year that we're spending some mental health money and safety and security money, basically, were the two largest ones. So the state is appearing higher than last year. Also, local payments from other districts is higher than last year, and that has to do with the timing of a special ed payment from KRISA. We received it in October of this year versus last year we received it in November. Just moving down to the expenditure area, I just want to point out under support services, down towards the bottom, other support services is higher than it was last year. That has to do for a couple different reasons. Our athletic official costs are up compared to last year at this time. Our contracted coaching positions are now being paid out on a bi-weekly basis instead of, I believe that they were like a 2-payment system before. So the cash flow and the expenses are hitting those accounts every 2 weeks now. So that's skewing those numbers. And also, we paid our athletic trainer costs a little bit earlier this year than we did last year, so all of that is contributing to that variance. Also would like to point out under child care services, still under the support services area, that we are down compared to last year, and that's because we were using a grant called the Child Care Relief Grant last year. At this time, we were spending that down and exhausting that, so there's quite a skew there in those expenditures. It's down this year compared to last year. Just one other thing to update the board on. We submitted our October 4th count day file to CEPI on November 15th. And that count file came in very close to what was budgeted. We budgeted 8,592 students approximately. With the blend from 90% of the fall count and 10% of the last February count, we're technically 6.78 FTE higher than what the budget was built on, so that's very, very close. Granted, that's subject to desk audits that still have to occur from the scheduled buildings, and then that number can still fluctuate now between the months of October and February, between the 2 count months. If we have students that come into us from out of the county, and from the state of Michigan, we can do a Section 25 claim on them. So our FTEs will fluctuate now until February. So we'll see what happens. Any questions right now from the board?
Thanks, Paula. That's all I have.
We'll move to our comments and communications section. Is there anyone in the audience who has signed up to address the board this evening? Thank you. Are there any comments by board trustees, please?
I was able to attend a conference a week ago, and I learned a lot. I have notes and notes of ideas and thoughts and learnings and so on that I'm looking forward to bringing up to the board, not just all at once right now, because that would be obnoxious. But there was a challenge given that I thought was really appropriate during one of the breakout sessions, asking, do families feel welcome, wanted, and that they can make a difference? And the challenge is that even if you have families who feel that way in the district, we were suggested that as a board, as a whole, including Mark, but all 8 of us on here, to really increase that and seek ways to increase that so that parents feel that much more involved in the school. And I thought that was such a great suggestion and such a great goal for us as we move forward to really focus on. So I just thought I'd bring that up, and hopefully the training will benefit the board as a whole in more ways than that over the upcoming months.
Thank you, Kimberly. Glad you were able to attend. That's great. Anyone else? I was able to attend the Michigan Council of School Attorneys meeting on the 9th at MASB, and a summary of their presentations is at your places. It was very good information. The presentations were excellent. If you ever get a chance to attend, I recommend it very much. Then there's an article also at your places from the Kalamazoo Times that talks about some in-county comparisons of SAT scores for math, and we normally don't compare ourselves to districts in the county, but this has some information about that, and it uses SAT scores from the 21-22 school year, and being passed around as a thank you note from the Rickers family for the flowers we provided for Superintendent Rickers' memorial service. So with that, we will move to the consent agenda on page 7. The only thing we have on there today is the November 6, 2023 Policy Governance Retreat and the Committee of the Whole Work Session minutes. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented. And we'll go to our required action item, the first one, to approve the summer tax resolution on page 14. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President Van Antwerp, I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the annual summer tax resolution that authorizes Portage Public Schools to continue its summer tax collections in 2024 as presented.
Thank you, Keith. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Bo. This is a routine item for us, and we discussed it at our last meeting. Is there any discussion at all?
Randy, I mean, we talked about this last time, but I would just underscore that Portage is fairly unique in that it does its tax collection in the summer. That gives us a bit of an advantage with our cash flow, so that Portage Public Schools does not have to borrow money during the late summer and early fall to fund our operations. So this is very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Yes, sir. Any other comments?
Which was one of the things that came up at the MASB classes, that we are so grateful that we are not carrying a high level of that. And I very much appreciated that.
Right, for sure. That's the roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Kroll.
Yes.
Ms. Crawford. Yes. Mr. Van Antwerp.
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Very good. The motion passes. The summer tax resolution is approved. Our next action item is to approve the superintendent contract on page 17. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve modifying the current contract of employment for the superintendent to increase compensation and to extend the contract for 1 additional year as presented.
Thank you, Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Keith. This is something that we do annually following the superintendent's performance evaluation where he was rated highly effective, and this is something we do before the end of the calendar year. And this year, the proposal is to extend the term of the contract from June 30, 2025 to June 30, 2026, and increase the tax-sheltered annuity payment by 5.6%, which is based on scale and steps. If you recall, we granted steps to the administrators back in June, and approved administrator contract extensions and additional compensation. With that, that makes the increase 5.6%, and that's consistent with salary actions previously approved by the board for the administrative group. Is there any discussion or any questions?
Well, so this is annually the point where a comment of appreciation and levity needs to be made.
Which one are you going to do?
I'll try to wrap them together. So Mark, your contract will be extended through June 30, 2026, and there's nothing in the contract that requires you to be here until then, and we do understand that at some point you will decide to retire, but hoping that you will be here through the end of the term of this contract, and maybe some years past. So anyway,
Thank you for that.
it's somewhat of a backhanded note of appreciation. And I think is this your 10th or 11th year that we've started now? In my estimation, it has been a very good run. There are many accomplishments, and just really appreciate your being here, and look forward to a few more years.
Thank you for
I
that.
hope.
Any other comments from trustees? Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate everything you do, and we're glad you're here, and we're happy to grant this contract extension and increase. All those in favor of approving the superintendent contract, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes and the superintendent contract is approved. We'll now move to our next action item, is to approve the monitoring report evaluation form. On page 19, is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the monitoring report evaluation form as presented.
Thank you, Ian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Keith. Any discussion? As we discussed, this is something we're going to try, see how it works, and if we need to change it, we can certainly do that down the road. So with that, all those in favor of approving the monitoring report evaluation form, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The monitoring report evaluation form is approved. And we'll go to our first discussion item, which is renewal of auditor services. Paula.
Good evening again, Board of Ed and Superintendent Beelang. The audit committee met back, I believe it was September 25th. I gave the members an overview of how the audit process will flow for the district. And at that time, I had a discussion with them to proceed to entering into a contract again with Raymond. And so the recommendation tonight included in your board packet is that we enter into a 5-year contract this time versus a 3-year contract is what we had last time. We do have a very good working relationship with Raymond. All of my staff have established very good relationships with the auditors. Per board policy and administrative regulation, we are required to retain an audit firm, and so my recommendation is to accept the proposal as presented in your packet. Are there any questions? It's a purchase service, so it's not required by law to have to be bid, but I did take it to the audit committee first.
I appreciate how thorough the audits have been. It seems very detailed.
That's what they're supposed to do.
I agree. Just because they're supposed to doesn't mean that everything happens as it's supposed to. And I appreciate that it truly is.
And like Kim referenced in his presentation at the last board meeting, I do reach out to them on several occasions through the year. I don't just wait until May or June to start asking questions. Like, we're asking questions now, and we're gearing up and moving toward changes that are coming in the next audit. So we're constantly in contact.
Well, having had the opportunity to be a part of the complete audit process this year, this is support. It was enjoyable thoroughness. Kim is truly an expert, and just even away from this group, coming to learn that Raymond really is the gold standard. So it has my support.
Are there any questions at this time from the board?
Is it typical that if you're extending the contract for a longer period of time that maybe they would give you like a more discounted rate instead of going up each year?
In our previous contract, the increases were very marginal.
Okay.
In this contract, it has to do with wages that are offered for the people that are actually working the audit. So that's what's driving the little bit higher uptick each year, and it's all wages. Because I inquired and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because usually if you're extending.
But it's still a reasonable. It still is a reasonable amount to ask for all the work that they do have to do. I mean, we have so many different funds that they look at. The Site and Sinking Fund requires a special look. The construction funds when we have bond proceeds come in, all of that stuff requires me to be able to prove that I did.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, appreciate it. Our last discussion item this evening is policy revisions recommended by Neola.
So there are two policies that bring to you just for action next time. Policy 1540 is a new policy on administrative staff reductions and recalls. That's a policy that we currently don't have on our books, but at our policyholders' recommendation, attorney's recommendation, that we make sure that we have policies that reflect current practices. And part of this is making sure that we're positioned for the future, that we have these, that, you know, we have these practices, we have several practices regarding personnel issues that we need to get into policy, and this is one of them. So if anyone wants to take a look at that policy, you're welcome to take a look at that. We have them in their draft form in the office. And then the weapons policy is basically a recommended revision from the Neola that just updates that policy to be in line with current language, reflecting some legislative changes that took place. And again, those are available for review. And we will have a number of others coming at you over the next month or so, primarily to capture some existing practices as well as some modifications of some existing practices that we're recommending. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Mark? Okay, with that, we've completed our agenda. Please turn in your meeting evaluations, and I wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
This is our record.
This is a record, and this is
I am like, I thought this was going to be longer.
Happy holidays, everybody. Everybody gets hours back.